It's the Employment Opportunity Hour with Gene Hodge every Thursday night from 7 until 8.
So the purpose of the show is to help you out there to find something that you enjoy doing instead of a job. And at the start of the show, I normally give out a formula, which I know will guarantee you to find the type of job that you want right now.
Find out the formula to an enjoyable job with Gene Hodge's Employment Opportunity Hour every Thursday night from 7 until 8 here on the Tan Talk Radio Network.
Show me the money.
Hello there, Tampa Bay. This is former NFL and college football coach Jimmy Johnson. Listen to the Kelly Show every Monday starting at 5 p.m. They can sure use the attention.
And this is former Major League Baseball player, Hall of Famer Wade Boggs. I also hope you listen to the Kelly Show every Monday starting at 5 p.m. They can darn sure use the money.
Hi there. This is marine wildlife artist and conservationist Dr. Guy Harvey. Please listen to the Kelly Show every Monday starting at 5 p.m. They need to feel worthy.
Are you a writer, inventor? Do you have questions about your intellectual property rights? Well, tune in every Tuesday and Thursday morning at 11 o'clock for Joy on Paper. Once a month, I will have a special guest, the writer's legal eagle, Bill Larson of Larson & Larson, who can answer your questions. Protect your valuable work. Email me your questions to patsy.radio@gmail.com and then listen in every Tuesday and Thursday at 11 a.m. right here on Tampa Bay's Tan Talk Radio Network. That's patsy.radio@gmail.com.
Listen to the latest pet trends with benefits on the Pet Buzz every Saturday morning from 9 to 10 a.m. Join pet trendologist Charlotte Reed and veterinarian Dr. Michael Fleck as they talk all things pets. From animal health and wellness, money-saving tips, celebrity gossip, breaking news, and more. Their expert guests are in the know and in the now. To learn more about this unique program and its hosts, tune into the show on the Tan Talk Radio Network.
Tampa Bay's Tan Talk, entertaining and informative radio for the Sunshine State.
This is the very best of Kiss. "20 huge classics from the legends of rock. One awesome album. Kiss World, the best of Kiss."
What's going on, Steve? Oh, you're doing some reading. Good job.
Oh, I'm sorry. All right. Our show is tonight. I am stuck on day 25. What do I do, Stephanie? I'm stuck on day 25. What do I do?
For anybody who can't see Steve right now, he's got his face in my workbook, which is helping people rediscover who they are after toxic relationships. The name of it is called Being Loved Shouldn't Hurt. It's the workbook that goes along with my #1 new release bestseller, Being Loved Shouldn't Hurt. And so basically what the workbook does is it actually helps you rediscover who you are, because after so many of us have been in these toxic relationships, we are lost. We don't know what direction we need to go to. So the book and the workbook are both available on Amazon. And I'm actually doing a book signing in about 2 weeks.
Wow,
yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. It's actually going to be pretty cool because it's really local. It's all the way in Texas. So those of you listening in Florida, it'd be a little bit of a drive, but worth it. I'll be there all day signing books and answering questions. And I'll also do a speaking event as well to really talk about how to really heal and overcome toxic relationships.
Well, you know what? This is National Kiss Day. So
you're preparing just in case? Where's your wife?
Yeah, well, you know what? You don't like kisses?
Oh, that.
Kisses.
You're supposed to eat chocolates. Oh, got it.
All right, National Kiss Day, kisses, it's a big day, right?
That's an important day. Kissing is a pretty important thing.
Yes, kissing is a very important thing. I think, this is Kick on Healthy Relationship with the Curb. We have every Wednesday from 5 to 6 p.m. That's Stephanie McPhail. She's an author. I'm Steve Vaccaro, and I am a psychologist that does nonprofit work here in the tri-state area and in Florida. And we're on Tan Talk Network, AM 1340, AM 1350, AM 1400, FM 106.1, FM 104.3, tantalknetwork.com. We want to thank everybody behind the scenes there. Bobby behind the glass there in Clearwater, downtown Clearwater. 3.5 million people listen to this show or potentially listen to the show in Clearwater, Tampa Bay, and St. Petersburg. So we want to thank Bobby and Carmine behind the scenes. But before we get started, we have a Broadway star amongst us. Do you know that, Stephanie?
Who's that?
Well, I think it's our producer and engineer extraordinaire, Carmine Avilzio. Carmine, can you step away from the curtain there for a moment and talk about your second performance in New York City on Broadway, Alone, the musical in concert, Alone by Dean Tyler Kay, June 28th to July 7th. And guess what? Tomorrow is July 7th. Congratulations, my man.
Oh, thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Steve, for having me on and always all the kind words. Yeah, no, tomorrow's our last day at 54 Below. We are extremely excited for our encore performance. We have a discount code right now. So if you use the discount code ALONE35, you can get 35% off discount on your tickets. So yeah, anyone looking out to come in New York City on Broadway for a night, please check it out.
Can you tell us a little bit about what is it about? Like, I think that it sounds like something that would be really helpful for people to watch.
Oh, no, I appreciate that. Yeah, basically, we pass hundreds of people in a day. In the crowded streets of New York City, there's so many people that you pass and you don't know everyone's story. And that's the whole premise of the show. You pass thousands of people in a day and you won't hear everyone's story. You'll know bits and pieces of everyone's life and little bits of everyone's story, but that's all you'll truly ever know. And that's the whole premise of the show, and everyone bonding over their traumas or whatever situations they've been in that put them in a situation of being alone.
That's great.
So you're making a lot of money now, right?
Oh, I like that. I wish I could be a bigger Broadway star one day. Maybe one day we'll see.
Oh, there we go. Okay, there we go. You're gonna. I know you remember Stephanie, but I'm not sure you're gonna remember me. I don't know about that.
Who are you?
Yeah. Who am I? Yeah. You see, you know what? These millennial Broadway stars, they don't really know how to connect. They don't. They just know how to act. They know how to sing. They know how to dance. They don't know how to engineer. They do all this stuff, but there's nothing left he can do.
Oh, look at Carmine's face. He looks sad that you were even saying that about him.
He's an actor. He's acting. None of this is real. It's all acting.
Everyone on the Tan Talk Network hears you roasting me right now. I hope they call in and make fun of me today.
Carmine, but seriously, what is it like to step on stage on Broadway? You've been doing so much great work over the years in your young life. You have a great career ahead of you. But to actually step on a stage on Broadway and to walk out in the streets of New York City at night after the performance must be exciting.
Oh, yeah. It's such an exhilarating feeling just to see everyone come out to come support the work that I've been putting forward, and the whole cast and everyone just to get to this point and to push ourselves to keep going further after this. It's just been the biggest joy in my life, and I can't wait for what's next to come after this for this musical.
That's right. We're going to have to pay this guy because he's getting paid big bucks. If I can find this thing. Here we go. Oh, it's the wrong one. There we go. We'll get it right. I'm not, oh, there we go. Oh, you got the bell. Time is out.
Gotta have a bell.
Thank you so very much. Alone on Broadway. Again, you have a 35% thing off tomorrow, right?
Yes, Alone 35 is the discount code. Put that in the 54 Below website and you're all good to go.
And then right after that, you're going to be on stage with a couple of Bat Boy performances in the summer tour.
Oh, yeah, we got a summer tour coming up in July. We have Babe Ruth, we have Yogi Berra, we have a Bronx performance, and we're going to be there celebrating the story of second chances, Ray Negron and the New York Yankees.
That's right. Thank you so much, Carmine. I can't wait. I'm going to check you out again tomorrow night, and I can't wait. I love your family. I love to see the enjoyment and how proud your family and friends were last week when they saw you perform. It just kind of warms my heart, and I know your mom's your biggest fan and your dad. but it was great to see everybody in the audience.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. Yeah, it means the world to me to see even you and my whole family there. You can't forget yourself as well. Come on.
Yeah,
Now.
I won't. I'll remind you that I was there. 20 years from now, I'm going to remind you that I was at your first gig on Broadway. So when you put me up in the boonies, I'm going to remind you that I was there first.
Oh, no. Okay. I'll be on it. I'll be on my game.
There we go. Carmine Avizio, thank you so much, man. Great guy. Alone tomorrow night. Musical in concert, Alone by Dean Tyler Kay, who's a classmate on Long Island of Tyler. A lot of his colleagues and friends and peers are in this production. Got to check it out. And if you missed it, I think they're going to have some video snippets of the show in the weeks to come. But, it was 4th of July. Did you have a good 4th of July, Stephanie?
We had a very good time. I think we were all a little bit under the weather, but we made the most of it. We spent every single day doing something really fun.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. What did you do?
Well, you know what? There you're having some fun. There you go. There's a little one. You got to saw some fire trucks, and looks like you had a good time.
Oh my gosh, really funny story. So we were in a parade, and it was like a community parade, and there was a fire truck that was supposed to lead it, and there was supposed to be a police officer that followed the tail end. And right at the last minute, like the fire truck got there, we were waiting there, and they pull up alongside us, and they said, "Listen, we just got called to an actual fire emergency. We have to go." So we said, "Okay, fine." We totally understand. So they leave, they rush, they put on all the sirens or whatever, they rush off. And we're kind of standing there, and the police officer goes, "Don't worry, I will be in charge of it. I'll see if it's like someone in the parade can just follow us." So we're like, "All right, great." Well, I'm not really sure that police officer has ever been in front of a parade before, because he must have been going about 10 miles an hour.
Wow.
Now, for anyone who can't imagine what that's like, I can't run 10 miles an hour. Walking with a bunch of children is maybe 2 miles an hour. So this police officer was way down the road, and we're trying to keep up. We're running down the street in a parade, trying to keep up with this police officer who went way too fast down the parade route. So we were all at about halfway through. We're like, forget it. We're just going to walk. So the parade was like this super long string of people with dispersed, everybody was dispersed. It was not much. It was very, very funny. Did not work out as planned, but still a very funny memory for the kids to have.
Wow, check that out. That's a great picture.
Yeah, that's actually my son Zachary, my daughter Sophie, his best friend Jasmine, and his good friend Emmett all got to hang out in the fire truck.
Yeah, if you're on the radio listening to this, the back of a fire truck, there's Emma smiling. She's got your smile, and beautiful picture of her smiling by the poolside there.
She actually, right before she said that, she said, "Mommy, this is the best place ever." And so I said, "I got to take a picture of how content you are with being at the pool." It was so cute.
That was good. Well, my 4th of July, I spent with family, but you know what? I really wanted to go to Washington, D.C. But I was worried about the gas prices, the inflation of gas and everything. It's a real concern for everybody around the country. I'm sure it's for you too, Stephanie, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, it's every time I go to the pump, I'm questioning how much blood am I going to have to donate or sell?
I know. It's crazy. So I developed 4 stages of getting through the gas crisis here, and I lose it. First stage is shock. You can't believe you spent $65.51. The second stage, the second chapter, is sadness. You're sad when you pay $100.38 to fill up your tank, and you're still not where you're going to be. And then sadness leads to anger. And then you're still spending another $67.06, and you're still not where you have to be. So the next stage, when you run out of money, is broke and hitchhiking to Washington, D.C. So, it was a tough weekend, but we had a great time in Washington. We saw the monument, we saw the Capitol, we saw the White House, and Juan and I had a great day. The weather was beautiful. We spent so much time with so many great people there. We hightailed it out of there before the fireworks show because we were concerned. And, we have to start off again with another shooting that took place. Stephanie, you mentioned the parade, a community parade. Can you only imagine, I hate to bring this up, but can you imagine this breaking out in that community parade that you were at?
I I hate to say, I was at an event on Sunday. It wasn't a parade, but there was like some commotion that was going on, and a woman, a random woman that was there, and me looked at each other, and we both said, "Is this a time to run, or is this a good thing?" And we looked at each other for a good minute, trying to decide like what kind of situation this was. Hearts pounding a little bit, and realized, oh, it's just something. There was actually something fun going on. But I think we're kind of all in this heightened awareness of, oh, there's a noise. Oh, there's something going on. Should I be worried about it? And I think that we're kind of all there. I hate to say, I wasn't surprised when I saw that, really honestly.
You know, when I was in Washington, I was afraid about the numbers. And, you know, it attracts a lot of people with the big fireworks show. And I thought it was best just to leave there at a certain time before the big crowds came in Washington. Because I was kind of nervous. But then later on in the evening, we found out what happened in Philadelphia, but also in Highland Park, Illinois, outside Chicago. I can't believe that these things are happening. And again, it's about gun control. What in the world is a young kid doing with these guns and able to get on a roof site undetected and fire at people at a parade, at a community parade where 6 people perished, dozens were hurt, and it was traumatic and devastating for so many people. And it breaks your heart. It really breaks your heart, because you have to think twice of where you take your kids in public.
Yep. You got to think twice about going public anywhere, realistically. You know, there's going to the supermarket, going basically anywhere. I mean, I just was reading, I'm on Nextdoor, you know, like the app that you have for your community. And someone just said that they had their house shot up for like zero reason. They're just like in a normal neighborhood, and someone shot through their windows. They have no idea why. These things are just kind of going on, and we're not really doing anything about it. It's a very, very traumatizing time for a lot of people.
Yeah, and obviously there were a lot of red flags for this person that apparently the authorities were in there a couple of months prior to confiscating many weapons, knives in his possession, and he had made threats against his own family. That's a different flyer. It's not the red flags, but different making threats to his own family. The weapons, the knives were confiscated, but nothing was done as a follow-up for him. And, you know, unfortunately, what happened on the 4th of July is devastating and tragic. And if this country can't get it together with the mental health support that's needed and the gun control laws, they need to raise the ages of this, no doubt about it. And especially if you have a blemish on your record, how in the world are you able to purchase legally guns?
I mean, the high-powered assault rifles, right. You know, it's like, oh, another high-powered assault rifle. And I know some of you that might be listening right now and all of a sudden are feeling this knee-jerk reaction of don't take my guns. And I want to preface this with, I'm not someone who's afraid of guns, quote unquote. I'm not someone who's a take your guns away person. I really am not. I want my children to be alive, and I want other people, and myself included, to feel safe walking around my country. So the more guns we put out there doesn't actually make me feel safer. What would make me feel safer would be to know that people that are legally purchasing these guns have a much harder time getting them, because there's really no good use. And of course, I'm in Texas. So I had a few people say, well, we need them for the feral hogs. And I said, how often are you running into feral hogs in the middle of Houston, Main Street? Like, it's not happening. So if someone in Illinois, you're not worried about the feral hogs. So like, let's be real. Like when we're having a conversation about this stuff, let's make it real and factual, not this like made up stuff to try to push your own agenda. Let's start figuring out together what we can do to make this stop, because this will not stop until we come together and come up with a good decision of what to do.
No doubt. This is Kick on Healthy Relationships to the Curb. That's Stephanie McPhail. I'm Steve Vaccaro. We're on Tan Talk Network, downtown Clearwater. If you want to join in, please do. It's 727-441-3000. We're asking you people to call in today, because we're going to open up the phone lines for Kick on Healthy Relationships to the Curb. Talk about toxic relationships or things that we bring up on this show. 727-441-3000. 3000. But before we get to some of these calls, I want to bring up a situation that developed that you brought to our attention and that made national news, the Gabby Petito situation that ended in both lives dying. And Gabby was the victim of domestic violence. And we have a little news clip to kind of highlight the journal that the killer and the violator wrote before he perished himself. Let's check out this little news clip.
Contents of Brian Laundrie's notebook have been revealed. Here at 10, we've got our first look at what he wrote about the death of his fiancée, Gabby Petito. It's his confession in his own writing, and legal experts say it could become evidence in a current lawsuit against the Laundrie family. Let's bring in Fox 13's Janae Lewis live in our newsroom with a story and what he wrote. Janae, this captured everybody's attention last year. What does this say?
It's still capturing everyone's attention now. You know, since the FBI discovered this notebook last year, there have been a number of questions about what was inside. Agents previously said Laundrie wrote his confession, but now we know why, at least in his words, he did it. Glimpses into his final words. The FBI recovered this notebook last year near the remains of Brian Laundrie in the Carlson Reserve in Sarasota County. And now for the first time, we are seeing what he wrote. Inside, FBI agents say he confessed to the murder of Gabby Petito. In the pages publicly released, Laundrie writes, "I ended her life. I thought it was merciful, that it was what she wanted. But I see now all the mistakes I made." The FBI determined Laundrie killed Petito last year while on a cross-country trip. Her parents in New York reported her missing when they stopped hearing from her, then learned Brian returned home to Florida without her. Searchers found her body in Wyoming, and a coroner said she was strangled to death. Laundrie called her death an unexpected tragedy, saying Petito was hurt while they were at a park in Utah. He said he didn't know the extent of her injuries, but knew that she was in extreme pain, saying, "From the moment I decided, took away her pain, I knew I couldn't go on without her," adding, "I am ending my life, not because of a fear of punishment, but rather because I can't stand to live another day without her. I've lost our whole future together, every moment we could have cherished. I'm sorry for everyone's loss." Forensic experts say extensive testing was likely done to determine the notebook's authenticity.
So one of the things that we can do, because of the water and the weather and everything, there may or may not have been DNA on it, but we can do a handwriting analysis.
The release of Laundrie's notebook comes the same week the parents of Gabby Petito had their first hearing in a lawsuit against Brian Laundrie's parents. They claimed that as they desperately searched for their missing daughter, the Laundries already knew what happened and refused to speak to investigators because they were trying to protect their son. Analysts say the contents of his notebook could be a critical piece of evidence in the family's lawsuit.
If there is a date in the notebook, like a lot of people will date a diary or something like that.
The journal reveals a lot about what Brian Laundrie's intent was, and whether or not that crosses over into anything they contribute to his own parents, that's a different story.
Now, Brian's parents want the lawsuit thrown out. The judge says he'll decide in the next 2 weeks whether the case will proceed to a jury trial. If this happens, this will occur sometime in the next year. So, Mark, still a lot more unfolding and developing with this story.
There's so much to unpack there,
so
and to go back to where we were when all this was happening to try to get in his mind. It's a grand tragedy for sure. Janae, thanks.
Stephanie, what do you think with that news clip?
I mean, I have that actually brought up so many more questions than it actually answered anything, because what was wrong with him to think that, you know, this is not like 400 years ago where she got hurt and you got to like take her out of her misery. I mean, there's cell phones, there's cars available. If she actually got hurt, why did he think he was being merciful by ending her life? I mean, that seems a little far-fetched. So like, was there something else going wrong with him that he thought that was okay? And then of course, him confessing it and saying he wanted to be with her, I'm sure there's a lot of guilt for the fact he took her life, you know, regret, hopefully, for him that he took her life. I'm not really quite sure I'm understanding the whole putting her out of her misery thing. Sounds like a little far-fetched in my opinion.
Yeah, I think this whole thing was orchestrated by him from beginning to end, and he wanted to have the complete control, and that's one of the key red flags in a toxic, narcissistic, challenging relationship, correct?
Yeah, for sure. Wanting to manipulate the victim so that they think it's all their fault, trying to make everybody else feel that it's the victim's fault, taking no responsibility for their behavior. That's another huge one. And there's so many things. And of course, we saw in the videos of the traffic stop how much she was crying and she was upset. And he was talking about how he was just protecting himself against her. But if you hear the phone call of the witness that actually called in to have the traffic stop, he was watching him hit her. And it's such a common thing for victims to blame themselves. It's my fault. I brought this on myself. If I hadn't have said that thing, if I hadn't have done that thing, then I wouldn't have put myself in this situation. But that's not the case at all. But the perpetrators are very good at manipulating that.
That's right. This is Kick on Healthy Relationships to the Curb. That's Stephanie McPhail. I'm Steve Vaccaro. We're asking our callers to call in today, 727-441-3000, live calls. And I think we have someone on the line. Derek, are you there, sir?
Yes. Hi, Steve. How you doing?
Good, good. Say hello to Stephanie.
Hi, Stephanie.
Hi, Derek. Thanks for calling in.
Sure. Sorry, I got a little bit of a cold.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. We're talking about toxic relationships and specifically about this situation with Gabby Petito. Do you have a question or a comment you'd like to make about toxic relationships or what we've been talking about so far?
Yeah, I got to be honest. I've been watching you guys for a while, and I'm a single father with two kids, and my ex-wife, God bless her, she just wasn't very positive and happy, and nothing against her, but it didn't work out. And my question for Stephanie is, now that I'm thinking about getting back into the dating world, what advice would you give a guy who wants to meet a high quality woman, someone who's forward thinking and independent and positive? Because I just see so much negativity out there.
Thank you. That's a really, really great question. Thank you for asking, Derek. So I think one of the biggest things that we work with our clients is helping them reconnect to who they are. So the first thing to think about before we even start dating is, who am I? What is it that I want? What am I passionate about? What am I excited about? Because when we've been in this toxic relationship, and again, might not be any fault of the other person, you just didn't work well together. We lose ourselves trying to make the other person happy and try to figure things out. So the biggest number one thing is really to just reconnect with yourself, figure out who you are. And then as you start working through that, then of course, then I always tell clients it's the dating for educational purposes only. So there are a lot of dating apps. There's a lot of ways to meet people. And there are quality people on those dating apps. It's kind of like shopping at like Marshall's or TJ Maxx or like one of those places. You've got to look through the racks a little bit to really get a good deal. But the important thing is to really know what you're looking for. So as you're dating, you're looking to see what is it that you like about different parts of a relationship. What are some things that you know that you need to have in a relationship? What are things that you absolutely don't want to have in a relationship? So all of that is once you know who you are and what you need, and then you start dating and looking for like those qualities and seeing, is this really something I want in a partner? Then you can actually start being really particular and don't just settle. Once you get that clarity of what you're really looking for, that's going to help you really find and hone in on the right type of person for you as a future partner.
Thank you, Derek, for calling in. Feel free to reach out to us in the weeks ahead. But you bring up a point. Derek brings up a question, too. When you first start going out with somebody or dating someone, quick involvement seems exciting, right? But it could be a huge, huge red flag if they're too involved right away.
Yeah, actually, that's normally one of the big red flags is that if someone wants to move in too quickly, if they're telling you right away they love you, if they're trying to move things more quickly than you're comfortable with. I mean, that's something to really, again, as you get to know yourself, it's how does this feel for me? Does this feel right? Or does this feel like I'm being pressured? As soon as someone starts trying to pressure you to do something that you're not ready for, mark that as a giant red flag. There should be much more like it's mutually feels comfortable for both of you to move forward, not one of them trying to push the other one. If someone's trying to, it's called love bombing, where they're trying to make you feel so wonderful and amazing, and they're trying to get exactly what they want from you, then they can take off the mask and actually become the person they really are and stop pretending. So they want to get you really quickly so they can stop using up all their energy pretending and actually be who they are. Because a lot of us, once we've fallen in love, we accept a lot more than we should because we're already in love with them.
And that term, I mean, old term rebounding is very critical, because if you go from one relationship to another relationship, you might look at that quick involvement as a quick fix and get disguised by that. And then, you know, sometimes people see extreme jealousy as kind of cute. Oh, he or she cares about me. That's why he or she wants me to be around at all times.
Oh my gosh. I just had a conversation with someone in my group about this, that I remember going to a friend's house or hanging out with friends. And if I didn't have my phone visible, I would freak out. Like if I left my phone in the car for some reason, I would freak out, and my friends would ask me what was the matter. And the reason why is because if I didn't immediately respond to a text message or a phone call, I'd be accused of cheating on them. And this is a common theme, when at first it seems like they're being very attentive, like, oh, that's so great. They miss me. They're checking in on me. And we like that. We like when people are giving us attention, right? But there still has to be a separation of two different people living their lives. Like, what are they doing with themselves if they're calling you 30 times during the day? And what are they going to be like once you're in a committed relationship? Are they going to continue to call you and expect you to be there waiting by the phone to answer whatever ridiculous text message or call they're going to be, you know, putting into you? So just, you know, it seems like a nice thing to get that attention, but be aware that definitely is another red flag being thrown up when they're calling and texting over and over again. And again, at first they might not get mad at you for not answering, but over time that very generally progresses to that.
This is Kick on Healthy Relationships to the Curb. We're talking about toxic relationships and red flags. And if you want to join in, please do at 727-441-3000. We want to thank everybody on the Tan Talk Network for having our show on this amazing network. But today, we're talking about toxic relationships on AM 1340, AM 1350, AM 1400, FM 106.1, and FM 104.3, reaching out to St. Petersburg, Clearwater, and Tampa Bay, and all around the country on the live stream here. So we're doing both. We're doing live radio and we're doing live streaming. But Stephanie, what's your take on controlling behavior in a relationship?
Controlling behavior goes again to the fact that there should be two equal people in a relationship. There should be no one in charge of the other one. You know, when you're coming to a partnership, that means both people have an equal say in what goes on in the relationship. If you feel like someone is telling you who to talk to, what to wear, where to go, what interests to follow, I mean, all of those things are giant red flags. And again, they're not great showing of love. Love is about really allowing the other person to be inspired, to be the best version of themselves, not to try to cater to the other person all the time. So controlling is a big no-no. And it goes both ways. It doesn't just have to be the guy. There are plenty of women that are controlling as well when it comes into the relationship. And a lot of that is, if you are open to getting some help, you can work through some of that controlling stuff, because probably that controlling thing came from a fear of abandonment. It could be from some other kind of trauma that's happened to you. I mean, Steve, as a, you know, therapist, what is it that you see with people in that kind of controlling behavior? What kind of psychological trauma have they had to really have that need to control other people?
Well, I think there's a lot of psychological trauma in a lot of people that are acting in a violent way, and domestic violence. And even when you see these shooters around the country all the time, I think there's unresolved issues that are going on, and the different challenges that they have in their upbringing that aren't resolved, or they're mirroring their parents that might be another domestically violent situation or challenging situation where they're either separated or there's violence or there's alienation or things like that. They're affecting the mindset and the personality and the psychological makeup of that individual. And when it doesn't get addressed or it slips through the cracks, you get situations like Gabby Petito, because use of force during an argument is another indicator, but the force doesn't have to be on the person, does it? Could it be like this aggressive gestures or slamming a desk or throwing something that can be a red flag, Stephanie?
Well, and I think what happens for a lot of people is that, like a frog that's being boiled in water, if you throw it in the boiling water, it's going to jump out. But as it gets used to the water slowly getting hotter, it'll allow itself to be boiled to death. And that's a lot of us that have been in those toxic relationships. We start with, they didn't hit me. They just, came to the place I was at and demanded to know what I was doing. Or they didn't talk to me for 2 weeks, or they yelled and screamed and cursed at me. And then it slowly just kind of keeps building up to a place where, so they punched, like I had my ex-boyfriend punch the wall all over my head. So there were 3 holes all over the wall around me. And his thing was, well, I never laid my hand on you,
Nice.
Those kinds of things. And then with my first marriage, oh, I spit on you. Oh, I just strangled you. I didn't punch you. I didn't leave any, broken bones. That's you. You're making a big deal out of nothing. People do things when they get angry, and then there's the trying to get forgiveness. So that escalation is sometimes so insidious because we just try to overcome it so that we can move on to the next thing. Like, we don't want to deal with it. We want it to be, okay, it happened. It's bad. Let's figure it out and let's move on, especially when you're smart. Let's just figure it out and move on from there. And so it's many of us, as intelligent as we are, instead of dealing with it head on, because we think that's what we're trying to do. Maybe if we make them understand that punching the wall was wrong, maybe if we make them understand that cursing and screaming at us was wrong, maybe they won't do it anymore. But it goes back to, it's the control. They want to have that control over you, that fear that something could possibly happen if you go against what they say. So, again, you have to be very careful with the things that seem like not a big deal, and watch and be very aware if and when they escalate. And, like my first marriage, being called names was a daily event. I just became used to it. Now, like my husband, David, will say, I can't imagine speaking to you that way. He's like, you would run so fast. And we have 2 kids now, and he knows I wouldn't put up with that at all. But my first marriage, I got used to it. It became the way it was. Don't allow yourself to get used to being spoken to that way. Don't put yourself in a position where you're going to be cursed at and threatened and continue to stay in that position.
And if you have a question, please call 727-441-3000. This is Kick on Healthy Relationships to the Curb, open phone lines here. And we're on Tan Talk Network, and that's Stephanie McPhail. I'm Steve Vaccaro. If you're in the car, pull over, pick up the phone, ask a question, or connect with us here. We're here every Wednesday from 5 to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, drive time. So when you get out of work, tune us in on every Wednesday so you can hear what we're doing. But Jekyll and Hyde personality means mood swings. And, when you see as dramatic mood swings, very low and very high, and no middle ground, and it fluctuates so quickly, that's another red flag, isn't it?
Yeah, there's no gray. It's my way or the highway. I mean, that's something that's really scary. And of course, it also makes us really walk on eggshells, because you never know how they're going to react. Today, they might be fine with you saying whatever it is that you're saying, and the next moment or the next day, they might take that piece of information and lose their temper and then turn it around and make it your fault. So yeah, definitely another red flag there.
And here's another red flag that went hand in hand with this whole Petito situation: isolation. Because these two were in the desert and, camping for weeks. And this guy, Brian, had no, challenges against him because he was in full control, isolated from everyone else.
And and it's so sad because it seemed like such a great story. Like 2 young kids like going cross country in a van and videoing the whole thing. Like
that's like the American dream, right?
Yeah,
that's like the American
it's like
dream.
romantic. It's fun, like all those wonderful things. But it makes me wonder, and I'll say that kind of in air quotes, because that relationship could not have been so great to begin with. And whatever their upbringing was that made them stay together when things might not have been so great. But it already probably had its own red flags that they both ignored. And anytime you are with a toxic person and they try to isolate you from friends or family, that is a dangerous situation, because then you have nowhere to go. If they take your money, if they take your cell phone, if they really, again, the controlling thing, they don't want you to be around other people that are going to tell you and remind you like, hey, what's going on is really bad. You don't deserve this. They don't want anyone to tell you that. So they want to ostracize you from everybody around you to make you feel like they're the only one who understands you and they're the only one who will put up with you, because they love to say that. You're crazy. I'm the only one who could put up with you. That's why your friends left. No, your friends left because you, the boyfriend or girlfriend, whoever it is keeping me, isolating me or controlling me, or they're afraid for my safety, or you made me move, cross country. But again, they're really good at making us get confused with just all of the misinformation. It's called gaslighting, where they really make us confused on what's reality and what's made up.
Right. And they're constantly blaming others for their problems, others for their feelings. And it's over time, the other person in the relationship can start to believe it if they feel what they have is true love.
My ex-husband would tell me that when I would say, sweetheart, I don't understand why there has to be a big fight if we disagree about something. I wish we could just talk about it. And he said his response was, you live in lollipops and rainbows. Nobody talks things through. They lose their temper. They curse at each other. That's how people deal with stuff in life. So you need to get that out of your head. And all these people that you think have great relationships, you have no idea what goes on behind closed doors. They're just the same as we are. And as much as, the first time you hear that and you're like, I don't know if that's right, but you hear it over and over again. And I mean, there was always a piece of me that thought, oh gosh, I hope that isn't true. Like, I really do hope that there are those relationships, there are those people where people actually talk to each other and work things out like two adults. But I couldn't, that didn't work. That wasn't going to be something that he did. But I can tell you that does exist, because that's what I do with my husband, David. If we're frustrated, if one of us like snaps a little bit or says something, kind of a little bit like sounding frustrated, there's no issue with apologizing. There's no issue with saying like, hey, can we talk about what happened yesterday? Or can we talk about, whatever it is that's going on? There's a lot of conversations about anything and everything. It is possible.
Is it a red flag? Please call in at 727-441-3000. We have a few minutes left if there's any callers out there. Public display of anger or violence. I mean, if someone could take those measures to express themselves to the recipient of a domestic violence situation in public, God only knows what's going on behind the scenes.
Well, and I 100% agree. I mean, if they can do it in public, can only imagine what's going on behind the scenes, for sure. But I also want to turn that around and say, for all of you who think to yourself, well, they can't help it, they're stressed out, whatever those things are using to manipulate you, how are they at their job? How are they around other people? Are they beating up other people? Are they cursing out other people? What are they doing? Because if they're able to keep a job, if they're able to not lose their temper on their boss, if they're able to pretend to be somebody else that is not the same as what you see in front of you, then I can tell you they are very able to control themselves. It is just an excuse for them to treat you badly and to try to get you to stick around. So it's not that they've lost control. It's that they know how to control themselves around other people. And with you, they decide to take it out all on you.
Well, when somebody's driving in the car here in Florida and they're thinking, wow, this is happening to me, and they're checking off, 1, 2, 3 of these things that we're talking about, what should that person do? How can they do a reality check on their own relationship?
The biggest thing that I can say is it literally, I teach about narcissism, I teach about codependency and empaths. And so, this is what we deal with all the time, but it literally doesn't matter whatever the definition is of your relationship. It doesn't matter if one's a narcissist, one's a codependent, one's an empath. None of those things actually really matters. What matters is how do you feel? If you feel uncomfortable being around the other person, if being around them causes you stress, if you are not in a relationship that inspires and motivates you, you're probably not in a healthy relationship. Or if there's nothing really terrible going on and maybe you've lost connection, and maybe there's something that needs to be done for you to reconnect. Maybe it's something simple like that. And sometimes it is. When we work with clients, sometimes it's just learning how to communicate better. But a good amount of the time, we hold on to things way longer than we need to, trying to make it work because we feel like, well, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's me that's making them behave this way. Maybe, it's something going on with my partner. We can figure it out. We can work it out. And I'm not against trying to work out relationships, of course. But if you are feeling like you are unsafe, if you are feeling like you can't speak your mind, if you are feeling just like, there's something more out there for me, this can't be my life, that I stay stuck like this, then there's a pretty good chance that you are not in a healthy relationship.
Well, we're almost out of time because we have a video from my daughter, another health video that she's going to share her recipes to stay healthy. But your book, again, one more time, and you have a conference coming up. Share with our viewers a little bit and listeners and people riding around in the car. How can they get the book and about your conference?
Sure. Well, I have a few really cool things going on. So I did write a #1 new release in codependency called Being Loved Shouldn't Hurt. It's available on Amazon. There is a workbook available with it as well. Definitely recommend getting both. But my book talks about healing from the cycle of toxic relationships. No matter how long you've been in it, no matter how long you've suffered, it is possible for anybody to change and really create the life of their dreams. And so my hope for that book is to really give you the tools to start changing your life. On July 23rd at 1:00, I am going to be doing a speaking event and book signing in Houston, which I'm really excited about at 1 p.m. So feel free to message me if you are in the Houston area and you'd like to come and hang out with us. But also really, really cool. I think it was the day before 4th of July, I got a message from one of the presidents or CEOs, I'm not sure what the title is, of Avaya University, which is a very well-known online university for people that are looking to heal from various issues that are going on for them. And they asked me if I would do them the honor of being one of their experts on their team of experts for healing from codependency. So as of September 1st, and thank you, Carmine, for putting that on the bottom, David and I are going to be monthly contributors to codependencyrecovery.org, which has the top 20 healers in codependency that will be putting blogs on there every single month to really help people get the tools they need so they can break the cycle of whatever's no longer serving them and really start to put themselves first and create their best lives.
Thank you, Stephanie. We're going to take us home with Planta by Gia. Thank you very much for everybody out there. God bless. We'll see you next Wednesday.
Bye, everyone.
They literally look like little babies. Hey plant friends, and welcome back for another episode of retake. Welcome back for another episode of Planta by Gia. Warm weather is upon us, so today I'm going to bless you with a delicious, flavorful recipe that's high in protein to keep you full, low in carbohydrates, and also low in calories to keep you slim. Today's dish is called eggplant rollatini, and this is a very special dish to me because it is an Italian dish. And guess what? I am Italiana. My full name is actually Giovanna. So growing up, I grew up on a bunch of Italian dishes, And I was kind of sad when I switched to plant-based because I thought that I wouldn't be able to eat these dishes again. But later did I find out that I can still have every single dish just made without animal products. So this dish is actually called eggplant rollatini because what you do is you literally roll the eggplant in ricotta cheese. So we obviously are not going to be using any dairy in this kitchen, and we are going to be making the ricotta cheese with tofu. But before I get into the recipe, I wanted to talk to you about why vegans and people who eat whole food plant-based do not consume dairy. So actually, 70% of humans are lactose intolerant. What this means is that their bodies cannot properly break down lactose, which is in dairy. And this can cause nausea, belly cramps and pain, bloating, gas. Dairy is also considered an inflammatory food because it's loaded in saturated fats. And it's also one of the main causes of acne in people. I used to have a lot of acne, and just by cutting out dairy, I saw a dramatic change in my skin complexion. Okay, so let's get into the recipe. So this recipe is going to be separated into 3 parts. The first is a homemade marinara sauce. And we're going to do this first because we want to get it on the stove and let it simmer for about an hour. So what we're going to be needing for the homemade marinara sauce is 1 can of crushed tomatoes, 1 can of tomato paste. Then we're going to mince about 4 to 5 cloves of garlic and use about 1 to 2 tablespoons of olive oil. All right, so let's go get it on the stove. Okay, so we're gonna let the marinara sauce sit on the stove and simmer on a low heat for about an hour. We're going to be needing 2 large eggplants. I found the biggest eggplants I could find. They literally look like little babies. So we're gonna need 2 large eggplants. We're gonna rinse them off, and then what we're going to be doing is slicing them long ways. After that, we're going to be putting some salt on top of them, just a sprinkle of salt, and letting them sit in a colander because what the salt does, it absorbs all the liquid and it also takes the bitterness out of the eggplant. So let's get to slicing. Now you want to slice them about a 1/4 inch thick so that it's easy to roll them. So first you want to cut off the sides. And we're not going to use that part. And then you're just going to slice up your knife right to the edge. Just like that. I like to use Himalayan salt rather than table salt because Himalayan salt is filled with minerals and it's much less processed than regular salt. Okay, so as we let the eggplant sit and soak out all of the water, we're gonna let it sit for about 15 minutes. We're now going to be making the tofu ricotta. So this dish is a high protein dish, and that is because tofu is very high in plant proteins. It's also a great source of plant-based calcium as well as iron. So to make the tofu ricotta, we're going to put it in a food processor with 1 to 2 tablespoons of fresh lemon, 2 tablespoons of nutritional yeast. Nutritional yeast is super healthy for you. It even has some vitamin B12 in it as well. 1 teaspoon of apple cider vinegar. half a cup of fresh basil. I actually went into my garden earlier before and picked these. And some salt and pepper to taste. We're going to put it in the food processor and grind it up. If it gets a little too thick, you can always add a little bit of almond milk, but I suggest just going 1 tablespoon at a time because you don't want it to get too smooth. We want it to be nice and fluffy, like a ricotta cheese. Also, don't forget to check on your marinara sauce. Just give it a little spin and see how it's doing. The kitchen smells beautiful right now. I wish you could smell it. Okay, so now if you see it's a little blocky, we want to get it a little more smooth. So I'm going to add about a tablespoon of almond milk. You can use any type of plant milk you'd like. And I'm then going to be putting in the basil last to chop it up to give it a little grit. And that is about the consistency that we're looking for. Just like a ricotta cheese. So now since the eggplant has been sitting for about 15 minutes and sweated out a lot, if you feel it now, you can actually see all the water dripping off of it. So now we're just gonna pop it into the oven at 425 for about 15 minutes, and this is gonna soften up the eggplant and make it easier for us to roll. So what you're gonna need is some olive oil or coconut oil. And what you're gonna do is you're just going to spray each side of the eggplant and you're gonna line them up on a baking sheet.